Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Quote of the day. It is health that is real wealth and not pieces of gold and silver. My topic of presentation is balanced diet. I'm Dr. Mary Nasir and I'm doing this presentation under supervision of Professor Saira Afzal. Learning outline. I'm going to introduce you to balanced diet, food pyramid, my plate, and we are going to discuss some programs and initiatives on a balanced diet. And at the end, we are going to have MCQ session. Learning outcome. At the end of the presentation, participants will be able to describe about balanced diet, its importance, and initiatives about the balanced diet. Introduction. Now, what is diet? Diet is all kind of food which a person or group lives, all the amount of food which person eats to live is known as diet. Now, a balanced diet is a diet which is containing all the foods that are required in adequate amount. So, the balanced diet is defined as one which contains a variety of food in such quantities and proportions that the need for energy, amino acid, vitamins, minerals, fats, carbohydrates, and other nutrients is adequately met for maintaining health, vitality, and general well-being, and also makes a small provision for extra nutrients to withstand short duration of leanness. So a balanced diet is fulfilling the requirements of the person, the macronutrient requirements and the micronutrient requirement for the health and well-being of the person. Now, principles for constructing balanced diet. If we want to construct a balanced diet, we should keep in mind that daily requirement of protein should be met. So, which is approximately 10 to 15% of energy requirement of the person daily. And fat requirement should be limited to 10 to 30% of daily energy intake. And carbohydrates, they can be refined carbohydrates and unrefined or natural fiber. So carbohydrate rich in natural fiber should be constitute the remaining food energy, and refined carbohydrates should be limited. And the requirement of micronutrients, which include the vitamins and minerals, should be met. Now, the food guide pyramid. So we all know, have discussed the food pyramid before. It is a nutritional education diet which emphasizes food from five major food groups, which are shown in the next slide. And each of these groups provide some but not all of the nutrients required. And foods in one group cannot replace those in another. So this is a food pyramid. We can see that the base of the pyramid is formed by the bread, cereal, rice, and pasta group, and it is forming the chunk of the diet. And this group is providing us with the fiber, the unrefined carbohydrate fiber, and it's also providing some vitamins and minerals. Now, next comes the fruit and vegetable groups, which are above the first group. And this group is providing basically the carbohydrates, fibers, vitamins, and minerals. On the third section, we have meat, poultry, fish, dry beans, eggs, and nut group. This group is providing us proteins. So they are meeting the protein requirements of a person. And then there is a milk, yogurt, and cheese group, which is meeting the requirement of calcium in the body. And at the top of the pyramid, we have fats, oils, and sweets, which should be used sparingly and they should not be used often. So this is a food guide pyramid, which is one group cannot replace the other group. So if a person is taking only milk, yogurt, and cheese from this section, so the protein requirements will not be met. So each group has a significant importance and is providing different nutrients. Now, dietary goals, prudent diet. There's a terminology known as prudent diet. Prudent diet is a diet which is used to prevent the common non-communicable diseases or other common diseases. For example, hypertension, ischemic heart disease, coronary heart disease. If we target prudent diet, so these the incidence or prevalence of these diseases, they decrease. So they suggest that dietary fat should be limited to 10 to 30% of total daily intake, as a diet high in fat is related to ischemic heart disease, coronary heart disease, and other non-communicable diseases. Sources rich in fats and alcohols should be restricted. Now, there are two types of fat, unsaturated fat and saturated fats. The saturated fats should be further restricted to less than 10% of the total energy intake, and excessive consumption of refined carbohydrates should be avoided. Protein should be approximately 10 to 15% of daily intake. Salt intake should be less than 5 grams per day. Junk food such as colas, ketchup, and other foods that supply empty calories should be reduced. Empty calorie means that these food are only providing calories. There is no micronutrient or macronutrient requirement which it is fulfilling. Healthy diet. Now, healthy diet is important as it prevents against malnutrition in all its form, as well as non-communicable diseases. Unhealthy diet and lack of physical activity are leading global risk to health. Healthy dietary practices start early in life. For example, after birth of a child, breastfeeding fosters healthy growth and improves the cognitive development, and may have long-term health benefits such as reducing the risk of becoming overweight or obese and developing non-communicable diseases later in life. Healthy diet goals. Now, energy intake should be in balance with the energy expenditure. So the requirement of calories depends upon age, gender, culture, physical activity or inactivity, and other factors. To avoid unhealthy weight gain, total fat should not exceed 30% of total energy intake. Intake of saturated fatty acids, as already discussed, should be less than 10%, and intake of trans fats should be less than 1% of total energy. Trans fats are have side effects more than all of the fats, and these are mostly present in the bakery items, fried items, and processed foods. And when a person eats a more amount of trans fat, there's a high risk of coronary heart disease and stroke later in life. And limiting intake of free sugars to less than 10% of total energy as a part of healthy diet, and keeping salt intake to less than 5 grams per day. Now, coming to the concept of My Plate was developed by the United States, and in this they have discussed that one side of the plate should constitute fruits and vegetables, the other side should include grains and pulses and nuts, and there should be a cup or amount of the dairy product in daily in diet. So discussing the details, what food should be in fruit group? Now, any fruit and 100% fruit juice counts as a part of food group. And fruits may be fresh, canned, frozen, or dried. Or it is recommended that at least half of the recommended amount of fruit should come from whole fruit rather than 100% fruit juice. So the My Plate USA is saying that focus on whole fruits rather than fruit juices. Now, what groups are in vegetable groups? Any vegetable or 100% vegetable juice counts as part of vegetable groups. Vegetables may be raw or cooked, frozen, canned, dried, or maybe whole, cut up and or mashed. Based on their nutrient content, vegetables are organized into 5 subgroups. There are number one subgroup is dark green. Second is red and orange. Third is beans, peas, and lentils. Fourth is starchy vegetables, and fifth is the other vegetables. And now the message is vary your veggies. So instead of eating vegetables from one group, you should vary your vegetables between these all 5 groups to get the appropriate balanced diet. Now, what foods are in grain group? Any food made from wheat, rice, oats, cornmeal, barley, or other cereal grain is a grain product. And bread, cereals, and tortillas are included in this group. Now, grains are divided into 2 subgroups, whole grains and refined grains. So it is recommended that make half of your grains whole grains, as whole grains contain the entire grain kernel, the bran, the germ, the endosperm, and these are rich in vitamins. And refined grains have been milled, a process which removes the bran and the germ. It is done to give a finer texture and improve shelf life, but it removes the dietary fiber, iron, and many vitamin B, which are present in the whole grains. So it is recommended that whole grains should be preferred. Number 4 is what foods are in protein food group. All foods made from seafood, meat, poultry, and eggs, lentils, nuts, soya products are part of protein food groups. And vary your protein routine. So instead of focusing on one protein diet, you should vary your protein routine to get a ideal balanced diet. Now, last part of the plate was dairy group. So what foods are included in dairy group? These include milk, yogurt, cheese, lactose-free milk, and fortified soya milk and yogurt. Um, Now, it does not include foods that have little calcium and high fat content, for example, cream cheese, sour cream, cream, and butter. So, move from low fat or fat free dairy milk or yogurt. It is recommended that you should use uh, um, low fat or fat free dairy milk. So that were the guidelines My Plate developed according to the USA population. So now the UK population has developed Eat Well Plate according to their population, which includes bread, rice, potatoes, pasta group, milk and dairy foods, foods and drinks high in fat or sugar, meat or protein group, fruits and vegetable group. In Pakistan, according to dietary guidelines, we have My Plate Pakistan, which includes cereals and cereal products, vegetable group, fruits group, milk and milk products, edible oil, ghee, and meat and pulses. As nutritional requirements vary with different populations, so many of the countries have developed their own chart or My Plate of balanced diet according to their population. Now, there's another diet which is known as DASH diet. It is recommended that there's a phenomena known as tracking phenomena. Adolescent and teenagers who have high blood pressure will continue to have higher blood pressure as the age progresses. So if readings are in gray zone, so DASH diet is recommended for them because it prevents the hypertension in later life. Now comes the recent updates. Now, WHO has launched a global strategy on diet, physical activity, and health in 2004. For balanced diet, the global strategy has four main objectives: to reduce the risk of non-communicable diseases that stem from unhealthy diets and physical inactivity by means of essential public health action and health promoting and disease preventing measures. So the WHO is recommending that you should eat healthy diets, and physical activity should be a part of daily routine to reduce the non-communicable diseases. To increase the overall awareness and understanding of the influences of diet and physical activity on health and the positive impact on the preventive interventions. Number third is to encourage the development, strengthening, and implementation of global, regional, and national and community policies and actions to improve diets and physical activity that are sustainable. So it's very important that the diets, balanced diets, should be used that are sustainable, comprehensive, and actively engage all sectors, including civil society, the private sector, and the media, to monitor specific data and key influences of diet and physical activity, to research in broad spectrum of relevant areas, including evaluation of interventions, and to strengthen the human resources needed for domain to enhance and sustain health. World Health Organization. In 2010, the World Health Organization endorsed a set of recommendations on marketing of foods and non-alcoholic beverages to children. Now, previously, we all know that in cafeteria, the colas and other drinks were available. But now, after this WHO recommendations, Pakistan now has also banned the availability of Pepsi and Coke and other beverages in canteens. And these recommendations guide countries in designing new policies and improving the existing ones to reduce the impact of children on the marketing of foods and non-alcoholic beverages to children. Now WHO has another program for balanced diet in comprehensive implementation plan on maternal, infant, and young child nutrition. So these age groups are high risk groups for developing the micronutrient and macronutrient deficiency. It aims to create a supportive environment for implementation of comprehensive food and nutrition policies to include all required effective health interventions with an impact on nutrition in nutrition plans, to stimulate development of policies and programs outside the health sector that recognize and include nutrition, to provide sufficient human and financial resources for implementation of nutrition intervention, and to monitor and evaluate the implementation of policies and the programs. Now, there's another program for, as there's rise in non-communicable diseases due to diet and physical activity, WHO has another program, Global Action Program Plan for Prevention and Control of NCDs, which is non-communicable diseases. So it has targeted that there at least there should be 10% relative reduction in harmful use of alcohol, and 10% reduction in insufficient physical activity, 30% reduction in mean population intake of salt and sodium, and also reduction 30% in current tobacco use, and 25% reduction in high blood pressure, and halt the rise in diabetes and obesity. So from two to this target, these are related to balanced diet and good nutrition. Now, there was a conference that was held in Food and Agriculture Organization, and WHO had international conference on nutrition too. Now, it was second international conference on nutrition in 2014, Rome, Italy. Now, they had a conference that because almost half of the world's population is affected by malnutrition, and it was the first global intergovernment conference to address the problems of nutrition in 21st century. The goal was to improve the nutrition through national policies and effective international cooperation. So it has also highlighted that the nutrients deficiency should also be addressed. Now, as already discussed, that now the agenda of WHO and Food and Agriculture Organization in 2019 is sustainable healthy diets. As we all know that there is high forms of environmental degradation and degradation of natural resources, and the population is increasing, so both are happening at the accelerated rate. So now the purpose is that we should provide a sustainable healthy diet for all the persons, as the population is increasing and the natural resources and other environmental resources are decreasing. And if we consume poor diets, they are major contributing factor for rising prevalence of malnutrition in all its form. Moreover, unhealthy diets and malnutrition are among the top 10 risk factors for contributing global burden of disease. So in this way, they have developed a plan that there should be healthy diets, and these healthy diets should be sustainable for everyone. Now, sustainable healthy diets are dietary patterns that promotes all dimensions of individuals' health and well-being, have low environmental pressure and impact, and have accessibility, affordability, safe and equitable, and are culturally acceptable. So the aim of the sustainable development diet is to achieve the optimal growth and development of all individuals and support functioning and physical, mental, and social well-being at all life stages, to prevent all forms of malnutrition and reduce the incidence of non-communicable diseases. Now, this is the sustainable healthy diet. So they have recommended that we should start breastfeeding children until 2 years, and breastfeeding should be exclusive up to 6 months. So they are based on varieties. So unprocessed or minimally processed foods are preferred, should be balanced across all food groups. So processed foods are not recommended. It is recommended that unprocessed food groups from all the food groups should be included, and should include whole grains, nuts, and abundance and variety of fruits and vegetables. Can include moderate amount of eggs, dairy, and other substances. Include safe and clean drinking water as fluid of choice. So safe drinking water is also part of sustainable healthy diets. Now, the diet should be adequate and are consistent with WHO guidelines, contain minimal levels or none, if possible, of pathogens, toxins, and other agents that cause foodborne diseases. So, food safety is also important to maintain greenhouse gas emission, to prevent the environment, or to preserve biodiversity, including crops, livestock, forests, and to minimize the use of antibiotics and hormones in food production. Nowadays, hormones are being used for food production, and So they should be minimized, and minimize the use of plastic and derivatives in food packaging to reduce the food loss and waste, and to build on and respect local culture, knowledge and consumption patterns and values on the way food is sourced, produced, and consumed. And the food should be accessible and desirable, and should avoid adverse gender related impacts, especially with regard to time allocation. Now, this is again Food and Agriculture Organization. As we are going through a COVID-19 pandemic, eating healthy before, during, and after COVID-19, they are saying that mix it up. So we should include food groups for food from all the food groups. Eat plenty of fruits and vegetables. Take the pulse and nuts, which will meet the protein requirements, limit fats, sugar, and salt, practice good food hygiene. Food safety is also very important for a balanced diet. Be physically active and drink plenty of water. Now, this is a program, World Food Program, Food Basket. This program is mainly for the people who are who have deficient food, or do not meet the food requirements. So it is distributing basket which provides 2100 kilocalorie per person per day, and they are fulfilling the principles of the balanced diet. Now, school feeding, which is also launched by the World Food Program in many countries, so they are also using the principles of balanced diet. Now, World Food Day in 2020 was in 16th October. And in this October, we are also going to have a World Food Day of 2021. So in 2020, the theme of World Food Day was to grow, nourish, and sustain together. Our actions are our future. Now, in Pakistan, there are dietary guidelines for better nutrition. Now, Pakistan dietary guidelines for better nutrition, they have reviewed the food security, health and nutrition situation of the population. And half of the population of Pakistan is deficient in one or more essential nutrients, reflecting unhealthy dietary practices compounded by the poor hygiene and sanitation. Women and children are vulnerable to nutritional deficiencies in Pakistan, morbidity and mortality due to compromised health and nutritional status. The Pakistan dietary guidelines highlight the predominant consumption of energy dense foods and monotonous diets by majority of the population. In Pakistan, we consume majority of the population consume energy dense fluid, and the diet does not include a variety. There is monotonous diet by majority of the population. So it is recommended that dietary guidelines for better nutrition, that all the food groups should be included as a part of diet, and the emphasis is to include all the variety of diet, and decreasing consumption of energy dense foods such as deep fried foods, bakery products, processed, and food which have high amount of fat, oil, and sugar. Moreover, in Pakistan, the physical activity level is also low than the other populations, and it is critical. Physical activity is also critical for healthy lifestyle in with the balanced diet. Now, Pakistan dietary guidelines on nutrition. In Pakistan, it is recommended that exclusive breastfeeding of infants for the first 6 months, followed by continuation of breastfeeding until 2 years, and advised daily consumption of basic foods. The guidelines suggest that the consumption of refined cereals should be reduced, and it is proposed that the amount of salt, sugar, saturated fatty acids should be limited. And the food handling and management practices should also be safe. pesticides, herbicide, antibiotics, and concentration of heavy metals should be checked to remain into the permissible range, and physical activity should be increased. Now, the nutrition situation of Pakistan. It has been reported that in Pakistan, only 24% of women initiate early breastfeeding. And while exclusive breastfeeding under 6 months is estimated at 37%, so Pakistan falls in the country, a category of low exclusive breastfeeding countries. And only 39% of infants receive complementary feed at the recommended time, and there's high prevalence of malnutrition. In adolescent, 1/3 adolescents are either stunted or underweight, and 10 to 30% are overweight and obese. And adults in Pakistan are also confronted with problems of under and over nutrition and alarming prevalence of non-communicable diseases. And about a quarter of adults are deficient in one or more nutrients like iron, vitamin A, calcium, vitamin D, zinc, or iodine. Now, this is an article from Dietary Patterns of Pakistan Adults Association with Socio-Demographic, Anthropometric, and Lifestyle Factors. It shows that distinct dietary patterns exist for Pakistani population that may be related to some of the population characteristics and may have importance in suggesting dietary and lifestyle interventions in the prevention of chronic diseases. Now it's time for the MCQs. A community worker wants to educate the community regarding balanced diet. According to food guide pyramids, fats, oils, and sweets should be used.
C.
Yes, the correct answer is sparingly. A diet containing right amount of energy, carbohydrate, proteins, fats, fibers, vitamins, and minerals, and water to fulfill requirement of body is called
D.
Balanced diet.
Yes, this is balanced diet. A person visited nutritionist for his diet plan. After taking history, the nutritionist analyzed that the person is consuming large amount of saturated fats. A diet high in saturated fatty acids is linked to
Cardiovascular disease.
yes, diet high in saturated fatty acid, particularly trans fatty acid, has even higher incidence of cardiovascular diseases. To decrease the incidence of coronary heart disease, stroke, and other non-communicable disease, WHO has developed prudent diet guidelines that have been developed. Which of the following is not correct about the prudent diet?
E.
Salt intake should be.
Yes, the correct answer is salt intake should be less than 5%. It is not 8 gram, 5 gram per day, not 8 gram per day. School health program was launched in 2005. It is helping to improve the health and well-being of students. Which of the following statement is not true regarding school health program?
Alpha.
Yes, the correct answer is D. It is not providing midday meal, so it is on nutritional counseling is being done. Recommended fat according to prudent diet guidelines is
C.
the correct answer is less than 15 to 30%. These are the references of my presentation, and thank you. If anyone has any question, he can ask. Thank you. Then we can end this meeting.